Welcome back, everybody, to the Fretboard Journal podcast, brought to you by Stringjoy Strings, Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar here in Seattle, Washington, and Peghead Nation. I am your host, Jason Verlinde. I'm talking to you on August 5th, 2025. We are just weeks away from our 2025 Fretboard Summit in Chicago, and I have a gazillion updates for you all. I also have a gazillion things I need to do between now and then. But I'm going to be sharing with you over the next 2 weeks a whole bunch of interviews of folks who are either performing at the summit or exhibiting or maybe sharing some knowledge with you all. It's going to be a blast. I hope you can all come. And today's guest, the incredible, one-of-a-kind Dave Hill, is going to be playing on Friday, August 22nd at the summit. He's going to be headlining Mauer Hall, the big theater in Chicago at the Old Town School of Folk Music. And I can't wait to see what he has in store. If you don't know Dave, it's kind of impossible to describe. He is a musician. He is a comedian. He is the author of a few books. He is an actor and just an all-around incredibly cool human being. He's also a guitar podcaster. Dave is one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram. His book on hockey, I absolutely adored. I devoured that last year. And I think he is just an incredible addition to the Summit stew and what makes it so cool. We are trying to create a festival that celebrates all the cool people we know in guitar culture, including makers and builders, musicians, historians. And if anybody out there is trying to wrap their head around what this weekend looks like, if you just want to go guitar shopping and buy from, 80 different luthiers from around the globe who are showcasing their latest creations, as well as some bigger brands like Collings and Martin and Yamaha. You can just come and buy a day pass and guitar shop to your heart's content. We'll have demo rooms where you can try stuff out. You can meet the builders. You can see what they're up to. If you want to step it up a notch, you buy the All Access Day Pass or the All Access 3-Day Pass, and that gets you into every concert, every workshop, every panel discussion, every live podcast taping, and all the parties. And that's really the way to go because that's where you really meet like-minded guitar people and have a blast and see shows like Dave's. Or on Saturday night, we got Lyle Lovett playing thanks to Collings Guitars. So it's going to be a great weekend. It's unlike any guitar weekend you've ever heard about. We try to pull out all the stops. We've got a Pinewood Derby track because a bunch of our luthiers are going to be building Pinewood Derby cars and racing them. Wagering is encouraged. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait for you all to be there. And whether you are coming at it from a nerdy, I only like pre-war acoustic guitars perspective, or whether you just want to have fun and you just want to see what all the cool guitars look like this year and see people like Dave, whatever you want to do, we have something in store for you. Go to fretboardsummit.org, register as soon as you can. It will sell out. I know the Lyle Lovett tickets already did sell out, the a la carte ones at least. I'd love to see you all there. It's going to be so much fun. And here is my conversation with the one and only Dave Hill. Dave Hill, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, I'm going to take a sip. I just ate some peanuts before we started. Sorry. Thanks for having me. Or should I? Oh, you can edit it. I'll say, thanks for having me.
I'm not going to edit it. I'll keep it all in.
Okay, good.
So we have you coming to our Fretboard Summit in Chicago, and I'm super excited. I have no idea what awaits. I want to hear all about that, but I think a lot of Fretboard Journal listeners, readers are probably, you'll be new to them, even though you've been a force of nature for the last several years with books, music, podcasts, comedy, everything. So let's start at the very beginning. Like, where did you grow up? Let's go there.
I'm from University Heights, Ohio, which is a east side suburb of majestic Cleveland, Ohio. Not unlike Chicago, but a smaller version.
Yeah, and you just wrote a book that I totally devoured on hockey and your obsession with hockey. And is that part of Ohio, kind of like Canada, south of the border or something?
Sort of, but more having to do, I think my interest in hockey really started, like, my grandfather was from Canada. So I had like I guess a weirdly Canadian upbringing, more so than, you know, people with no Canadian influence in their life. He just always talked about Canada and how awesome it was. And I think, because of him, I had more of an interest in, like my siblings and I all, like, we had to learn how to ice skate at like 3 years old and all that, like, which wasn't really normal for, the average Cleveland kid. And then out of that, I was interested in hockey, and I think I kind of gravitated toward hockey to sort of ingratiate myself maybe with my grandfather, because was never really into any other sports. Kind of played like, baseball and tennis a little bit, but I kind of just like was into sports as like social currency. It's kind of like you had to be like, oh, I gotta play and know about what's going on with the Browns and things like that. And then I guess related to Fretboard Summit, once I started playing guitar when I was 13, I realized, I was like, oh, I don't ever have to pretend to be into anything ever again. So I maintained my interest in hockey because I loved it, but I just ditched all other sports completely.
And what was the initial like lightning? What was the original light bulb moment for guitar? And was there some obsession over a band, or did you have an incredible teacher or something?
Yeah, I mean, I guess both. Like, I was super into. I got really into, really Led Zeppelin, like when I was like 7 years old. Because I think prior to that, I had only heard like FM radio and just like whatever music, kind of came. I didn't really know, I just kind of consumed music that was presented to me. I didn't really seek any music out. I was just kind of like, and then my dad brought home Led Zeppelin 4, which was kind of an anomaly in his record collection because he was into jazz and classical music, pretty much solely. But somehow he was into, I mean, not somehow, I mean, Led Zeppelin's amazing. Of course, that's why he got interested. But he brought that home, and it was just kind of like, whoa, it was like the first music I'd ever heard that scared me in like a really good way. It's just like, whoa, what's going on? And it's just like, what is this? Like, there's no band name on the album, there's just some guy with sticks on his back. It's like, what is happening? And so really Led Zeppelin, and then, just kind of into classic rock. When I was in grade school, I hadn't really discovered like anything beyond that too much, maybe like the Clash and stuff like that, but it was still mostly like, the Kinks, the Who, the Stones, Beatles, and like whatever.
Yeah. You're sort of the most fascinating guy in the guitar space because you've got stand-up comedy, you've been acting, you've got these books, you're playing music. You played with Bill Murray's band, or you opened for Bill Murray's band.
Yeah, I play with them too, though. They had me out, which is nice of them. They had me come out and play with them during their set a little bit, which is really intimidating because, Mike Zito, Albert Castiglia, and most nights Jimmy Vivino is there as well. So I feel like I realize there shouldn't no negative self-talk, but I'm like, oh man, there's a pretty big drop when Dave walks out there. But people tell me I shouldn't say that. But they're kind enough to have me come out during their set as well. But I do get like, well, first of all, I don't know any of the songs. Which is a big thing. but they have on the set list all the keys written down, so I just go like, all right, I just need to play in key. And, Mike, Albert, and Jimmy are doing all the actual playing. And then they just pointed me to solo, and I solo until they tell me to stop. And then it's kind of how we work it.
And is there much interaction with Bill Murray, or not really?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to make a joke and say I'm not allowed to look at him, but that's not true. He's the nicest guy in the world. So, no, those guys are all, Bill and Mike, Albert, everybody is just so nice and delightful. Like even from the first, initially they were doing Sketchfest in San Francisco, like at end of January or something. And I was asked to open those 2 shows with them. And then after the first night, they said, oh, you should do some more stuff. So I was like, yeah, love it. So I've done a bunch of stuff with them, but yeah, even the first night, Bill Murray, after I came off stage, he walked up to me in one of my t-shirts, which I thought was just a remarkably nice thing. Yeah. I was like, no, he's super nice. I do get, again, things I shouldn't be admitting, but I do get, kind of freaked out when I'm talking to him. There's a very small short list of people where I get a little nervous, try to play it cool. But yeah, but he's a super nice guy, and they're just the whole band is just, they're all total badass musicians and super nice guys. So I'm doing a bunch of shows with them this fall, so I'm psyched about that.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, like growing up in Ohio, like when did the seeds of all this, like the Dave Hill empire begin? Like, did it all happen when you finally moved to New York, or how did it be? What did you start with? Because like you have so many different facets to your career, and I don't want to make this conversation super boring, but like I'm just curious how you.
I don't know. I started, with me. I don't know, not to drag it all the way, but my first interest was like visual art, drawing and painting, and then, like a lot of kids, I got like fascinated with electric guitar, like when I was 11 years old. Who played guitar? It was still, he was like, "Oh, you got to take piano lessons first before you can get a guitar, because I want you to like prove that you're interested in me." I think he didn't want it to be like, oh, just make noise on an electric guitar sort of thing. And so I had to take piano lessons for 3 years from like one of the neighbors. And so I did that. And then at one point, probably like when I was 12, he had a nylon string guitar, and I just picked it up and started playing it. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, I could have done this a long time ago. Like, well, he wouldn't have stopped me. And then, but I really wanted electric guitar. So it didn't occur to me to pick up his Spanish guitar, but I did, and did like the usual things where you just like teachers. I always played by ear, piano and everything. So I was able to, play songs by ear, on one string. And then sort of like the summer before 8th grade, started taking lessons from a guy in the next town, this guy named Joe Manning, who had a sweet Les Paul. But it had to have been, probably 60s Les Paul, maybe even 50s. I don't even know. But I'll have to ask him one of these days. But yeah, so I took lessons from him for like a year, and it was hardcore, because this was like, tablature was just starting to be, at least to my mind, I was like, oh, there's tablature, but like I had to learn everything through I had to read music to learn. Like he would give you sheet music to everything. So, and I really wanted to learn how to play Stairway to Heaven. So I learned Stairway to Heaven by learning, like reading sheet music, which, when you're 13, it's like, you know, hieroglyphics or something. But I did it in like a week, and he was like, whoa, you're not messing around. So yeah, I always played in band, and then I was just playing in bands. And then I had a band in college with best slash worst band name. We were called Sons of Elvis. Me and my buddies, we signed a record deal with Priority Records, and then had one record out and video on MTV in the middle of the night and songs on the radio, and it's cool. And then that kind of fell apart, and then I was just kind of drifting around. My sister's a journalist. She got me like writing newspaper articles, and then between that and like I'd formed another band where I was singing, and I enjoyed talking on stage. And I think out of that and like trying to slip jokes into new newspaper articles, I was interested in comedy. And then ended up writing. I'm just kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but just so people don't fall asleep. But I started writing for television in New York, and then from that, I never planned to be a comedian. But then a friend was like, "Oh, you want to do something on my show?" He had a show like in the back of a bar, and I did that. My friend Tony Carnivale and Sean Taylor had a show at Parkside Lounge, which is still around. And that was like 20 years ago, I guess. And I started doing that, and then I still had I had formed a new band called Valley Lodge, which is still together. And one of our songs is the theme to the John Oliver show, just to give it some contemporary relevance. And I'd kept music and comedy pretty separate, but then, I had different friends like Tom Papa and Wesley Stace and Greg Barris, who all had shows where there was like a house band. And so I would be asked to do the shows, to do comedy, but then I would just bring my guitar along and just use the backing band as, like might as well have music and rip some solos while I tell my jokes. And that's kind of how it evolved, what I'm doing now, which is, stand up mixed with, backing band and playing solos too much and just having fun. And I don't know, I think ultimately like what I do in terms of my act and just in life in general, probably to my detriment, maybe, is I just kind of do what I like to do and don't really think about it beyond that. Like, and, I just do what I want. And as long as the bills are paid, I don't worry too much. So I think that's why my career is kind of, where I write books and do comedy and play music. And I just kind of just try to enjoy myself and just have fun.
Yeah. And do the books happen while you're, sitting in a motel before a show, or do you have to carve out like, I'm going to just write a book for the next 4 months and kind of be a monk?
No, I more like the former. I kind of do them as I'm doing other stuff. I probably should be more like that, where I'm like, I'm just doing this, but I can't. I get too like, excited about different things. So the books, I've written 4 of them, and I have this comic book series out now called Dark Regards. But I just kind of do stuff as I'm doing other stuff. Plus, like with writing, I try not to be too precious about it. A lot of people are like, oh, do you like go to, like go to a cabin or whatever, or there's, all these writers retreats that you hear about, and people are like, oh, where do you write? I can't write at home. I have to go to, excuse me, go to a coffee shop or do this or that. And I've just kind of always been like, if you have a chair, that's all you need. Just sit down and do it. But just, don't, and I think like there's this thing where people romanticize writing so much, thinks it's this precious thing. But I kind of look at everything as it's like cutting a lawn. You're just like, just do it. I don't think feeling precious about what you're doing ever makes it any better, So I'm just like, just do whatever you're going to do, sit down, write your book, do your laundry, run your errands, whatever. And this is, I don't think I've done much name. I guess Bill Murray, we'd said that, but I'm a big fan of name dropping. So I'll use that at this point. But, I'm friends with Malcolm Gladwell, who used to live right by me, but now he's mostly upstate. But I would see him writing like every day in the coffee shop in my neighborhood. And I would be like, oh my God, like he must be just writing like 12 hours a day. He's a best-selling author. And then finally I asked him, I was like, are you just like cranking out chapters all day, every day? And he's like, no, I write like 2 hours a day. And I'm like, what, really? And I asked him this when I was getting started on my first book, Tasteful Nudes. And I'm like, what do you do the rest of the day? And he's like, oh, I go for a run. I go get a hot chocolate at Chelsea Market. I go to the library, it's like, and so it really freed me up to go like, I'm like, well, if this guy's just writing 2 hours a day, I don't have to write more than 2 hours a day. And so that was really helpful to me. And I found that if you just give yourself 2 hours with, no phone, no internet or anything, and you just really just try to write as much as you can for 2 hours, you get way more writing done in those 2 hours than if you were to be like, I'm writing all day, because if you're like, I'm going to write for 10 hours today, then you're like, well, I'm going to go to the park with the dog, and then I gotta clean the bathroom, which is, of course you have to take the dog to the park, but maybe you can hold off on cleaning the bathroom. But, when you just do the 2 hours, once I started doing that, I just really started cranking through it. And it made me go think of it very differently, where I'm just like, I just have to sit down for 2 hours. And if I've done that, I've done my job for the day in terms of writing. And so I always recommend that to people. And then another writer's tip, as long as I'm on it, and then more name dropping, which is good.
Yeah.
My dear friend Dick Cavett told me a thing that had worked for him that he had heard someone else, I can't remember, was to have a word count, whatever it is, 1,000 words, 1,500 words. And you just stop exactly on the word, 1,000 words. And almost invariably you stop at mid-sentence. So like when you come back to it the next day, it's kind of like a baseball just frozen in the air, and you can just swing at it and you're back to it. So I found those two things to be really good tips.
That I pass on with the word processor. Wow.
Yeah. So those are two of my hot tips for writing. That makes it up. And also like years before that, which kind of led to me getting my first book, is I would fill like a page in Word or whatever every day, like about anything, just whatever I had for breakfast. Like it could be anything. So I think that made it so like I never felt canvas anxiety, like, because once I freed myself to write about whatever and told myself it didn't matter at all, I was able to, it's never hard to sit down and write as a result of that. Which is not to say it's always good. A lot of times it's garbage.
Do you already know what your next big book project is?
Yeah, I'm working on a novel now, which I haven't done much, but I'm hoping to get cranking on it this fall. That's my plan.
That's awesome.
Or even now, I'm kind of working on it, but I need to step it up.
Let's talk guitars for a minute. You've got a podcast called Axe Lords, which I thoroughly enjoy.
Thank you.
That's coming. It's starting up again, or it already just did?
Yeah, we just started recording new episodes. I don't know how many episodes we've already done, maybe a dozen. And, we've had a lot of, Steve Hyde, Joe Bonamassa, Carrie King, all sorts of, Mary Timony, if you call Doug Gillard, all sorts of players. And, so we're starting to record episodes for the new season. So hopefully we'll take over. Take that, Rick Beato. It's kind of the opposite of Rick Beato, what we're doing, out of respect.
Yeah. Well, as is what I'm probably even more opposite because I'm even more on the fringe, but yeah.
Well, Axe Lords is kind of was spawned by my friend Tom Beaujeur and I, who was like one of the founders of Guitar Aficionado. We text, as I'm sure you do, also text about guitars like all day long with various friends all over the world. And Tom and I would always be like egging each other on to send each other like a reverb ad or whatever. And the response is always, do it. Like almost never do say, don't get that. And I'll if I do, it's for like a really, I'll have a specific reason like why someone shouldn't.
So what was the last guitar you just pulled the trigger on and bought?
I have it right here. I meant to pull it into frame before we started, but let me go get it.
Okay.
I think this is the last one anyway. And if it's not, shame on me. Because this is recent.
For folks just listening, this is a BC Rich?
No.
What is this?
See, this is the thing. It's a Greco BB 1000, I think it's called, which is like, I think one of those B's stands for bitch. It's a copy, like a 1980, I think, Greco copy of a BC Rich bitch, and it's amazing. And it has like all the cool, all the little switches. Like there's two coil taps, two boosts, which are amazing, and are so loud. And if you already have like a pretty hot signal, they may turn it into like, it sounds like a cool kind of fuzz pedal. And if you have like a really clean signal, it makes it insanely loud and not usable at all. But there's volume switches for them too. So there you could, but I don't know, there's like so many knobs. I played my first show the other night with it, and I really struggled because there's a lot. I realized I don't really know what anything does yet. But what happened was I was doing this tour. There's Paul Rydell, who's the singer and guitar player for Blood Incantation, is like a BC Rich expert and enthusiast, and he and his bandmates all play BC Rich, and he knows like everything about them. And so I'm always messaging with him about BC Rich guitars. And so, but I did this tour, more name dropping coming.
Keep it coming.
I did the Michael Shannon and Jason Nardusian Friends tour, which, is John Worster from Bob Mould and Mountain Goats, and John Stewart from Wilco, and Doug Julin from Point Out Pondering, and Vijay Telesnayak, a great Chicago musician, keyboardist. So that I did a tour with them, and we were in Portland, and Peter Buck from REM was like guesting on that show. He guested on a few of the shows on the tour, and his Portland guitar guru guy, Andy McCullough, excuse me. He and I got to talking about guitars, and we got to talking about BC Rich, and collects like a ton of the original like 80s ones and 70s and stuff. And then I've always been like really into Japanese guitars, especially from the 70s and 80s. So I was like, oh, what do you think about the copies that are out there, like the Aereo ones, and Greco and stuff? And he's like, oh, like I collect those too. And they're, if you get them from that era, they're just as good. You can't even tell the difference from like the classic era of BC Rich. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So then he texted me this guitar, this bitch, or BB 1000, as it's technically called. And so it was on Reverb for like 50, it was Japanese conversion. So it was like some, 1573 and 12 cents or something because of the conversion. And so, and he was like, oh, I bet it's pretty awesome. And then he found it like literally the exact same guitar on eBay for like 2,200. And he said, it's something with Japanese sellers end up posting. He's like, I don't know if it's like how it works, but they post the same guitar at different prices on the different sites. He's like, I don't understand what's going on, but I find it a lot. So I started looking all over. Like, I was like, I'm just going to look for this guitar on every site. So I looked on gbase.com and I found it there for like $1,200. So, but still I was like, I'm always shaming and guilting myself. And I was like, you don't need this guitar. You don't deserve it. You piece of shit. It's, more negative self-talk
Sure.
that I like to subject myself to. So I was like, I don't know. And so throughout the tour, I was just looking at it and showing it to people. And then we were playing in Chicago, and I've been showing it to everybody, like anyone who would listen. I would show, like, check this out. And
this is weeks have gone by since you first found this.
2 weeks easily.
Were you going to kill yourself if this guitar was sold before you, or were you going to be okay with it?
Well, I probably would have killed myself, but I kept telling myself like, oh, like, well, if this,
okay,
if I sell this much in t-shirts tonight, I'll buy it or whatever, I would make up all these things every day. Like if this happens, if it rains today, I'll buy it or whatever, making up these random things about it every day. And then finally we were playing at the Metro in Chicago, and I had come off stage, and my friend Julia Rydholm, who played bass with me on a bunch of the shows, we were in the dressing room at Metro, and then Jeff Tweedy from Wilco and Mark Goldberg from the Wilco Loft came in, and like the band had, Michael and those guys had already gone on. So we were just kind of geeking out about guitars, and, so finally, and what I love about those guys is like, they're pretty omnivorous in their consumption of guitars. So, as am I. Like, I don't have nearly as many, but, I'm into like sweet Tellys, and I've, Les Pauls, SGs, and like, classic guitars. But then I'm not afraid of a Dean Dimebag guitar or BC Rich bitch. Like, I love all guitars, really. So, and they're the same way. And so I showed it to them, and Jeff Tweedy was like, that guitar's your destiny. You have to buy it. So I was like, all right, that feels like final permission. And I still didn't buy it.
Oh, no.
Until the next day, I was talking to Doug Julin, and I was like, Jeff says this guitar is my destiny. And he's like, yes, you've been showing me this guitar for 2 weeks. So I bought it. I finally bought it that night. And so now I have it.
And that came straight from Japan.
It came from Japan. It's the first guitar I bought straight from Japan. And I didn't know about like the duties you have to pay. So like shipping was like $200, and then it was like supposed to come on, whatever day it was. In the morning, it was supposed to come like DHL or whatever. I got an email saying you have to pay like $150, duty on this, or we're sending it back. So I was like, oh man. So small price to pay for Sweet Axe, and it's a great guitar. It's I had to swap out the what's it called? The tuning pegs. I replaced those, but other than that, it's all. But yeah, it's great, and it's just fun. It's I don't know, looks cool. I mean, really, I love the way it's really important how guitars play and sound, but if they have to look cool. If you're going to leave the house with them, the pictures have to look good.
Is there a classic guitar model that everybody obsesses over that just leaves you cold and you're like, I don't even ever want to own one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, I'm not a Strat guy. I don't know why, but I don't like. I would love to have like an awesome one. I think, well, going back to sort of what I just said, I don't think I look particularly good with a Strat. So something about them, I like them. They're fun and cool, and I had one briefly. And my friend Jason Narducci loaned me his that I played at a show in Evanston, and I loved it and was like, oh, I got to get a Strat. But I don't know, something about them. Maybe I think there's players that have kind of made me not like them that much. Players that I won't mention, unless it's Eric Clapton, that, kind of give me like sort of an anti-Strat bias. But also players that I really like have gone on to become Strat guys. And, like Pete Townsend and Bob Mould, who are known for playing other guitars, and then they became Strat guys. But I love those guys, but it still doesn't make me, I don't know. I think it's honestly, I just don't think I look cool. Like Nick Cave looks amazing with the Strat. Sorry, that's Lucy. Lucy, thank you. Good girl, thank you. Oh, good girl. Good girl, thank you. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
I always try to praise her for her protective nature.
It's important.
Yeah.
When you're doing all these tours, do you make a point of hitting all the guitar stores, or is that dangerous?
I do, but it's it's one of these things where it brings out complex feelings, because I have a lot of guitars, but I don't have a lot of and I have a lot of great guitars, but I don't have, like a sweet vintage collection. Like I probably have 2, 3, maybe really cool vintage guitars, like very cool. And they're kind of weird, like I have a Hendrick, generator guitar, which was just made very few of them. Now Kurt Hendrick is starting to make them again. I have one of those too, but that guitar was kind of like my my whatever, white whale or whatever that I was after for years, and I finally got one. And it's super obscure guitar. And so I have that, and I have like a 1938 Gibson lap steel that's really cool that I can't play very well. And then I bought, which I guess wouldn't really be like in that. I mean, none of these are basically I don't have like a sweet, I really want like a sweet 335 or something.
Sure.
But I get so caught up in, I go well, I'm torn, because a model that I would really want to have is kind of too nice for me to take on the road, because I'm always turning around and banging and shit. And, I always just put big dings in guitars seconds after buying them. And then, and then just knowing I don't know, I bought an SG, and I have one of the greatest SGs on planet Earth, one of the two best SGs I've ever played. My friend Tom Bourgeois has the other one. He has like a 63. That's amazing. Might be a 64, one of the two. But, I decided, I was like, I need to get an SG. I had one and I sold it. So I was like, I'm going to go play every SG under $4,000 in New York City at every store. Because I figured like more than $4,000, I don't want to take it anywhere.
Sure.
So I just went and played every one. And like, I was at 30th Street Guitars, and there was just like a 61 reissue, like 2006 USA model. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to bother playing that. But I was like, no, I told myself I'd play every one. And I played that, and I was like, oh, this is the best one, hands down, out of all of them. And I paid like $12.50 for it. And it's the best. It's amazing.
Cool.
But I still want like a sweet 69, with two P90s. I still got to get that. I don't even remember the question. Oh, going into stores. Anyway, these are all the things that run through my head. And also the fact that my girlfriend, if I come home from a tour with another guitar, she's very cool and understanding, but I think she's really sick of guitars showing up at the house, at her apartment, at her New York City apartment, which is like the bedroom is like lined with guitars.
Do you know, like you've got got the off-Broadway thing that you've been doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know ahead of time, like this, how many guitars do you bring to a show?
Only one or two.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be like, oh, you always have to have two, but a lot of times it's just me like flying to a show. And because I do stand up and during the show, I'm like, well, if I broke a string, I could just tell jokes while I change it. So I'm not too worried. But I've never had I never really break strings live. I probably just jinx myself, but it happens so rarely.
Yeah.
Every few years maybe. But then the only thing is like I like, it's fun having Floyd Rose guitars. But you can't just bring one of those, because if you break a string, you can't finish the song unless you have the, what's it called? Like blocked.
Yeah.
And I don't have them that way, because if you're blocking your Floyd Rose, I mean, come on. Even though Eddie did that, a lot of other great players too, but I don't.
Do you have any idea what you're going to be doing for a few hundred guitar nerds at the Fretboard Summit?
Yeah, well, fortunately, I have like a fair amount of guitar-based humor jokes, and then I'm excitedly, nervously going to try to really. Well, it's sort of a great. I mean, I'll do the classics, of course, Dave Hill bits, but I also really, one of my favorite things about living in New York is there's all these shows where they're like, this is the theme of this show, and then you write something just for that show. And you do it like maybe just that night, maybe never again. And so I'm sort of taking that approach with my Fretboard Summit invasion and trying to come up with as much. I feel like I have really strong Guitar Center material.
Oh, good.
Pretty strong Sweetwater material.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm thinking in those terms and going to try to keep it as guitar centric as I can. And then
I mean, Mitch Hedberg had a guitar store joke, but there aren't a lot of them floating around.
I've had a Guitar Center bit for a few years now, and then Bill Burr has a Guitar Center bit now, and I think it is most recent special, but we're two totally different things. But yeah, I think I mean, I like it's fun. I've done like some videos for like Earthquaker devices, and it's fun just making fun of equipment is one of my favorite pastimes. I mean, I don't know, people probably aren't going to bring their pedal boards to the show to the. Well, I mean, just attendees probably won't be walking around with pedal trains on their back.
No, that would be funny though.
But I would be willing to rate people's pedal boards and give the psychological. I'm a big fan of that in general, is giving psychological profile of people's pedal boards, what it says about them.
You could walk around all the exhibitors and give out like a best in show, worst in show if you really wanted to be ballsy.
Yeah. Well, it seems like most people have senses of humor about their gear and stuff. And the fact is I love all gear. I'm not against, I can't even think of really, like, there's no company where I'm like, no, I don't like their, like, I make these videos and they're not, people think I'm making fun of John Mayer, but I'm not. I make videos where I solo along next to him. You can make like duets on TikTok. And I just overplay over his things for fun, just to be an idiot, not to make fun of him. And so then my friend Max Ash is the great, or maybe great, I can't remember, grandson of Sam Ash. And so he invited me to play. He would like jam in the store like after closing sometimes. And I went and played with him once or twice. And while, it's kind of like Adventures in Babysitting or something, you're just like in this store and you can check out anything, and I still have this thing to this day about guitar stores where I feel like I'm like 15 years old and I'm going to get yelled at for like reaching up to pull a guitar down when they know I have no money or intention of buying anything. Like that's my mental state, and going into any guitar store generally, no matter what. And that's if I may digress as usual, but like I went into Rudy's here in Manhattan a few years ago, and like they have like all vintage and just a lot of, it's just very high dollar guitars. And I was walking in there and I was shooting something earlier, and I was like wearing like a sport coat and I was dressed like a grown man, and not just like, so I was walking, and then they're like, "Hey, do you want anything? Like, do you want to try anything?" They were like being like really outgoing, and I was like, "Why are they being so nice to me?" And then I caught my reflection. I was like, "Oh my God," because I look like a grown man who has money, who could buy something. Look, I'm an adult. And then so that was the only time I realized I wasn't 15. But usually I do feel that way. But anyway, I was in Sam Ash, and they had 3 of the John Mayer PRS guitars, and I was like, oh, I should really play one of these, given how many videos I make playing next to John Mayer on Instagram. And they were all amazing, like one after another. I was like, these are all, like, usually if there's 3 of the same guitar, you're like, one of them might be good. The other one, someone clocked out early to go to lunch or whatever. And, but all 3 of them were amazing. And I was like, I should buy one of these just as like a huge cell phone. And if PRS is listening, please, by all means, send me one. I'll play it. But anyway, I don't know. My point is guitar stores, something. Guitars.
You finally got to grab stuff off the shelf without feeling shame of a teenager.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so fun. I got to play. What else did I play? Played like, I think they had a Warren DeMartini, Blood and Skull, Charvel. It was pretty hot. I bought, I think the guitar I bought prior to this one was the Warren DeMartini Swords guitar, Charvel. That's basically, as I get older, I'm slowly trying to buy like every guitar I ever wanted when I was 13.
That's the goal, right? The bike you wanted when you were 13, the car, like all the things.
Yeah, exactly. I saw the Cult play on the Love Tour. They played at the Variety Theater in Cleveland. It was them and the Divinals. And I remember seeing like Matthew, I can't remember his last name, from Bow Wow Wow, played a White Falcon with the wire bar, like the Bigsby with the kind of the wire handle, the weird handle. And then I went to see the Cult, and Billy Duffy had that exact. I think it might even be literally the same guitar. Maybe I thought I read that maybe he bought it from Matthew, but I could be wrong. But so I remember seeing that he played a White Falcon, then he had a Black Falcon also as this backup guitar. And ever since then, I was like, I was like 15 or something. I don't even know. And I was just like, I have to get that guitar. And so I bought one finally like 10 years ago, the exact guitar. And it's too big to take out of the house very often. It's not like really a gig bag guitar. And every once in a while I think, oh, I should probably sell this. And I was like, no, 15-year-old Dave will not allow it. So.
Are you into acoustics at all?
I am, but that's also like, I think going back to the thing about vintage guitars, like, because, there's such like, especially even though like you kind of got to play like the magical one. And then I'm like, well, if I haven't played 100 of them, how do I know I need to? So basically I love acoustic guitars, but I've never had a really good one because anytime I go to the studio, they always have some amazing acoustic guitars. And then, so I don't really play acoustic live. And then, so I'm like, well, I'd play at home or I'd play in the studio. But every time I go to the studio, there's all these amazing acoustics. So plus you go like, acoustics are even more, great ones I feel like are even more elusive. And I was at Carter Vintage in Nashville a year or two ago, and I found like the sweetest, like a 63 Gibson Hummingbird, and it was just like sounded gorgeous. And I was like, man, and it was like 10 grand. And then right as I was at the store, I checked my email, and I got an email. This is maybe too much information, but why stop now? I got an email from my book agent saying like, oh, we sold the rights to, one of your books to this other company for X amount of dollars. And I was like, oh, cool. I can buy the Hummingbird. And I had it. I was like ready to march it up to the counter. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to call my agent real quick. And I was like, wait a minute. So this money, I saw your email. Am I getting that money? And he's like, no, they're paying that to, to Penguin, because they bought the rights from Penguin for this, territory or whatever. So I'm like, so I don't get any of that money. He's like, no. And so I win, set the Hummingbird back down again.
Don't email me about anything that doesn't affect me directly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was just like dangling a number. It's like, here's money changing hands that you're not going to see any of.
It's like looking at stock prices for stocks you don't own.
Yeah.
Are you at the point where guitar companies are sending you stuff?
Yeah, which is, I feel very fortunate and grateful about. So we're gotten a lot of nice guitars and pedals and stuff, and I play it. I always like me. It's fun to kind of take different stuff out, and I'm having a blast. Cool. So yeah, I have but it's also I do try to because I am really grateful. So I try to get out there with them and, use them in my videos and stuff like that. Like I won't like just take something and put it in the closet or anything like that. But I feel like grown up Dave, I feel like a jerk talking about it. But my inner 15-year-old is so excited by the prospect of people sending me a guitar. I think it's like the coolest thing on earth, you know, because they think back to like, when I was 13 and, didn't have an electric guitar, or even, the years I was like pining for one, from like 8 years old on or whatever. I remember just like seeing I specifically remember Fleetwood Mac had a video for that song Hold Me. And there's a scene in it when they're like in the desert or something, and then they happen upon this like oasis of guitars, and there's like, I don't know, like 100 guitars, it seemed like, just like lying on the ground in the sand. And I remember just thinking like, they have all those guitars. They could send me one of those. They wouldn't miss one. So I'm always kind of, I always think about that, thinking about how lucky I am to have a lot of guitars. And then, if I have a guitar that's not getting any use and stuff, like I donate guitars. I've donated like 3 or 4 to last year or so to a children's school. Not to make myself out to be nice, because I'm not. But just so kids can play, because I remember how badly I wanted a guitar, and which is not me saying, I certainly grew up very comfortable. It wasn't like, my dad didn't get me a guitar because he just didn't think I was serious about it. He had the money. But yeah, so he wanted me to prove that I was really going to work hard at it. So, but anyway, yeah. So to answer your question, yeah. I'm psyched. I was just got really amazing guitar from Kiesel recently. That's amazing. An amazing Zemitis V that's gorgeous and amazing. And endless. Now I'm starting naming them. I feel like I have to name all of them. It's a slippery slope.
Okay.
But just so many, great. Like, I mean, they're all, anything I've gotten is, started with me having a conversation with the company and being into what they're doing and stuff, like I play Illuminati guitars a lot, which are amazing. Aluminum. I'll bring some hot axes to the Fretboard Summit.
Well, please do. And I'm just so excited you're doing this. And I guess for anyone listening who's coming, take a picture of your pedal board and maybe you can rate it that way so they don't have to wear it on their back or something. I don't know.
That's a good idea, actually. I would, if people want to, take a picture, I'll give a full psychological analysis. Just a warning. I really, I'm not, if you have like, basically I like to make fun of pedals that don't do that much.
Okay.
Like the pedals that only the user knows is on. Like when people talk, it's really transparent. I'm like, why, what's the point of that? What does that even mean? Because I like pedals that sound like something the PA just broke. That to me is a good pedal.
Yeah.
Or that the amp is broke. That something has gone horribly wrong when you hit the pedal. That's the mark of a good pedal. So like a compressor or something is not, you deserve ridicule.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People take pictures, send them to me. Maybe we'll do a PowerPoint before your set and you can just rank them and, it'll be fun.
I mean, please, that would be amazing. I would love to, maybe we'll get some, where can they send them? Should they send them to you?
Yeah, they should send, so then I can compile it. So it's not work for you. So, podcast@fretboardjournal.com.
Yeah, this is a good, yeah. I mean, if we could get, 5 or 10 pedal boards.
Totally.
I mean, there's 3 hours right there.
We also have we have two pedal rooms. One is a room of just the people, pedal manufacturers, like our friends at Chase Bliss and everything, who will be selling their pedals in summer school. But we also have a pedal room that's actually a room you walk into that is a working guitar pedal. So you can see.
Wait, so if you just walk into the room, you'll be turning pedals on?
No, you'll see the wires. You'll be inside of a pedal. It's like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids thing.
Oh, I thought it was like the whole floor is like covered in like, big muffs or whatever.
No, that would be cool too. That's 2026.
Yeah. The whole, just people are just turning pedals on. That would be pretty cool. Oh man, this is exciting. Well, yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm very excited about this.
We're very excited to have you, and you'll be there Friday night. And thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, that was my conversation with Dave Hill. Thank you so much for tuning in. Feedback encouraged as always, podcast at fretboardjournal.com. If you're coming to the Fretboard Summit, drop me a line, ask me questions. If you have any, I'm here to help. This is a really cool weekend. It's my favorite weekend of the entire year, and I cannot wait to see you all and Dave Hill and Lyle Lovett and Ryan Richter and Ella Feingold and so many other folks we've heard on this podcast. It's going to be a blast.